So I don't know about everyone, but I was really excited by spatial mapping in Tableau. I love the fact that you could grab a polygon of who knows what and throw it at a map, and then it would show you where it was. But I had a question. What if the data you're looking at actually doesn't really have any relevance for today's map and how things look today? Could we kind of go back in time and look at the same data in like a different time and a different period? So what I did was I got hold of some spatial data from a friendly archaeologist. I don't know if anyone is familiar with archaeology. This data is kind of looking at a particular area where they're doing a dig. They've got some bedrock layer information. They've also got some superficial layer information. I love this. So just under the surface, we can see where all the fluvials of water run, because they carry all the silt and the sand, which I think is really cool. What they also have is some archeological data. Now, it's a little bit hard to see on this screen, so I'm just going to jump to my next slide. So these are interpretive archaeology. So what that's saying is there's like some structures just under the surface, and it looks like stone or metal, and we kind of think there's something there. So an archaeologist can look at this and say, that's probably like a farm holding, and this one over here that looks like a face used to be a dwelling, and this one is maybe like a chimney stack. I don't know, you have to know these things. But what's really funny is if you look at the archaeology, you're like, there's an airport there now. There clearly wasn't an airport there when these things were like put in place. So archaeologists have this question. There's a couple of questions really. One of the things is, has the archaeology been respected? So have people built in a kind of sympathetic way over the archaeology? And also, why was it there in the first place? So kind of what was it responding to? So theoretically, you can go back in time to a different period in a map. Like this is a map that I found. It's an open source map from the 1980s of the same area. And you could put the spatial data over it, and you could kind of figure out, have people been sympathetic when they've built? Have they built around the archaeology? Have they built on top of it? Have they just destroyed it? And does it follow like rivers and streams and kind of railway lines and roads that were previously there? Top tip for you guys, if you see a road that's called London Road, that's been there a really, really long time. There's London roads going across the country. They're really old. So if you see London Road, those pre-exist kind of the 20th century. So how did I do this? I had to, first of all, plot the limits of the archaeology. So based on the modern map, using the spatial, just standard spatial analysis in Tableau, I used Tableau Annotate to come up with the longitude and latitude points of the kind of square around my archaeology. So that's like out the box. And then I needed to match the same points on the old map. This was not an easy process, but I could follow things like railway lines that were still there, rivers that haven't moved, watercourses that haven't moved, and some fields and some kind of older structures like quarries that are still present. So I was able to kind of do the same thing. Then I had to call on my friend Alteryx. Anyone who's had to use this in an emergency will understand how I feel. So Alteryx was how I solved the problem where I was trying to basically map the longitude and latitude to the x and y coordinate of the picture. There's some A-level maths in here. Don't know if anyone remembers algebra and just thinking I'll never use that again. Yes, you will when you're trying to do this particular job. So I figured out that if I had the latitude start point and then the y start point, I could then figure out the difference using Alteryx of the midpoint. So that meant that I could then bring the same points, so the same polygons that I had before, they're in point form here, but I could bring them back in, overlay them on the map, and I could see the same structures. So what you can see here, there's a few things going on, and I'll kind of zoom in a little bit so you can see. There's a few little things going on. So this one I really like. There's a line of trees here. That tree line has been respected for at least 300 years, which I think is really cool. Nobody's built over it. There's some other things that have not been quite so kind of closely respected. When you look at some of the archaeology points or potential points, there was the original farm holding here that's been redrawn. Don't know why, but that's definitely the case. And this one over here is just kind of in the middle of a field, but it's sort of been built around by various kind of clumps and stuff. So that's how you do it. You need to find a way to match your data and then overlay it onto a background image, which is then old maps. So you can theoretically time travel in Tableau.